35, 45 through town. Then once you hit the city limits, it goes 55, right? Okay, and so that happens right at where you turn off to go to the middle school. Yeah. So that stretch, people don't speed up until it then splits into 2 lanes. So they'll go 45 through there. Okay. So I've learned this. It frustrates me, but I know how it rolls. So I've learned, right? Well, there was a truck in front of me that was doing the typical, I'm going to go 45. And so I'm rolling. Well, this car gets up on my bumper. And then pulling out like they're going to pass on the double yellow line, right? So we're rolling up to where it splits, and I'm like, I'm going to jump out beside the truck. I'm going to go 45 beside the truck all the way to Carroll. Well, he jumps over to the left hand. He's going to turn left there at that road. So I'm like, that's perfect. I'll just stay right here. And then the car goes by me. I go, wait a minute. I know that car. I think I know who that is. So anyway, when I leave Sunday school, I'm going to walk through the parking lot and check license plates to confirm. And then I'm going to make a phone call and say, I don't know if you know who this is, but whoever's driving your car needs some driving lessons. So anyway. Good morning.
I'll pass them out on Highway 5.
Somebody got a boat.
They brought the boat with them.
Somebody got a boat.
Dude, I've made this prediction. I share this with the deacons. If we would have an 8:30 service, we would have tons of people that would stop here at 8:30 on their way to Lucky Valley. They would. I'm just affirming that they would.
Who is that? Your desk is really dusty.
Oh, that's Mitchell's. My desk. Yeah, it is really dusty. And what's been going on? Does anybody know? Nice. All right.
That's kind of one of those was raised battery.
Good.
A break.
Oh. Is that chewing gum? What? I don't understand.
It was I saw it on Facebook. It says 20 jokes that are so stupid they are actually funny.
Right.
You know,
That's one of them.
some of them are funny, but you know that you'll never like that. It's just
Right.
too bad.
Yeah, give him to me. My fucker likes to tell bad jokes. I mean, he bad jokes.
Ain't all the bad jokes you can get.
He's the only one that thinks they're funny. The one I use all the time is the one about when you call a cow with no legs.
You notice the preacher.
That's how I use all the time. It's bad jokes. You know? Yeah, one of those ones thrown on.
I didn't see you
I use
lean.
that all the time. That's the best one I come up with. I can remember.
Nobody shows up in about 5 minutes. I may send you. Just so we'll know. DJ, you gonna make it, man? Okay. I'll take it. All right, let's finish up 1 Peter, and then we'll get into I'm a church member. What we're going to do with I'm a church member for the next 3 weeks, at the end of each chapter, there are 4 or 5 questions depending on the chapter, and we will we'll answer those as a group. I pitched this. DJ, you were in the meeting like a couple months ago, right? When I mentioned doing this. I mentioned doing this as Sunday school, and it wasn't that people hated on it. They just didn't like go, yay, that sounds like a great idea. So what I thought when we walked out of that room was we would not be doing this as a Sunday school class. So I talked to Bobby, and Bobby's like, yeah, I'm going to probably add it on to what I'm doing. So next weekend in Bobby's class, like, they'll answer some of these questions or whatever. And so the questions, I think, are rich enough, I guess, that we can have some good discussions on them. And there's enough scripture that I won't be able to cover it all on Sunday morning. But again, the last thing I want to do is be redundant. So when we come in here on Sunday school, I don't want us to just rehash what I talked about on the previous Sunday. I want us to expand on what we talked about the previous Sunday. So anyway, that being said, I had somebody come up to me last Sunday and go, "Oh yeah, we're going to be doing that in our Sunday school class. How do you want us to handle it?" Really? That's the kind of heads up I get. I said, well, we're just going to answer the questions in our class. and talk those things through. So anyway, for the next 6 weeks, we'll be kind of digging with these. And if I say anything on Sunday morning, again, y'all know the rules, right? If I say anything on Sunday that you go, huh? Then by all means, bring it in here. Let's hash it out. Let's talk it through and see what that really looks like. So anyway, all right, we're gonna finish up 1 Peter though this morning. I guess Allison's not coming back. I sent her to see if anybody was in your class, PJ, and she hasn't come back. So I guess somebody needed her this morning. Jessica is working in the nursery this morning, so it's Guys' Day again. And again, the craziness that is, 3 weeks ago we had 13 in here, and this week we have 6 in here. So I don't understand, which that's one of these kind of conversations that we'll be having over the next few weeks. So in finishing up 1 Peter, anything like jump out at you from the last 3 or 4 months, 2 or 3 months of 1 Peter? What are some mega themes? What are some mega themes from the past 3 or 4 months, 2 or 3 months? Can't remember how many it breaks down.
Persecution being one of the big ones.
All right, persecution. What? I didn't hear the end of it.
Being one of the big ones.
Yeah, persecution. Yeah, is either underlying or overlying. It's kind of the, to me, I would call it the backdrop of the whole passage. That as Peter is encouraging the church, it's in the midst of persecution. Anything else? Found it interesting that he does spend a fair amount of time in the last couple of chapters talking about the church. So I thought that was a good transition. I wasn't really thinking about it when we went into 1 Peter, the discussion of the church and functioning in the church. Do I? Yes. I got somebody? Okay, good. So Richard? All right, excellent. So how far did you make it? Okay. You're going to wave at him until he says. Nice. That was a great line from 2 weeks ago. What do y'all do when it rains? Amen. Count everybody? Same one. He meant coming out here counting, so got it. But again, that's I think it's a good transition into I am a church member from the last few weeks, especially as Peter brings that to light at the end. All right, anything else from 1 Peter? Just from the last few weeks. We're going to look at 5 this morning. But all right, cool. Let's look at the breakdowns that I used last Sunday, and we'll talk about some of those things and build on them a little bit. Spent a fair amount of time looking at the intro part, or the first 4 verses, about the importance of leadership being an example. Here he says, "So I exhort the elders among you as a fellow elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, as well as a partaker in the glory that's going to be revealed. Shepherd the flock of God that is among you." So God has given us shepherding responsibilities. And I talked about last week how I like the imagery that God chose to speak to his prophets and his authors about using this idea of shepherding. There could have been a lot of other terms. He could have even said, "Lead the flock of God that's among you," exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but willingly, as God would have you. That, we've been given this call. We have this responsibility, and there's a lot of shepherding involved. And that's, again, the conversation I had, and maybe we may end up talking more about I'm a church member than 1 Peter after all. But maybe you guys can help me gain some understanding of this. And I want to have this conversation with more of a fringe group than you guys, but since you're here, I'll ask you. It's interesting to me, and you'll see it in the next couple of months. We'll have a Sunday where there'll be 120 people in Sunday school. There'll be 150, 160 in worship. The sanctuary will be full. And those people that come are not just like random visitors that only show up every once in a while. There'll be folks that are here, but they'll all show up on the same Sunday for whatever reason. And my question is, why are they not here the other Sundays? Now, I know the easiest, obvious answer is because Jamie and Jeremy are sitting here, is sometimes you have to work on Sunday. Right, there's one.
Don't have to.
They're becoming fewer and farther between. Okay.
A lot of Hobby Lobbies, I know they're closing soon.
Right.
They go to
What else? What are other reasons people are not consistent? Let's put it that way, because it really comes down to
another
consistency.
one from the Sundays I'm here, but I don't come to Sunday school. I stay up too long. I hate to get up. I stay up too late and don't get up and talk.
Okay.
I ought to go ahead and admit it.
So is that a universal problem then?
Okay, you can wait.
Okay.
Well, everybody. I know from that.
Well, I know the answer. I got you.
But it's also still
I got you.
all the reasons.
I got you. You're right. You're ahead of me, man.
Well, no, but I mean, because I used to not come to Sunday school because it wasn't important to me.
Right.
But I mean,
Right. Right.
I don't truthfully don't know why it's important to me. I just know it is important.
Right.
So,
Well, and I'm going to read a verse or a part of a verse that's been kind of hanging in the back of my head to maybe help answer that question too. Yeah, I was going to say, TJ, would you have?
I was going to say, sometimes it's how applicable it is to somebody, right? It's very possible, especially if you're in Sunday school, more so in church.
Right.
The reason that almost university Sunday school members are always over church numbers is because it's easy to get the more shallow shotgun blast approach when you're in church. Like, I can comprehend and understand that basic faith.
Right.
Sunday school requires thought and internal self-reflection a lot of times.
Sure.
Or you're bored. I'm assuming one of those two, right?
Right.
And I think that's harder. And the more you put a challenge out there in front of somebody, the less people are going to get to rise to that challenge. Even if it's something as simple as coming to Sunday school.
Right.
Because it doesn't always click, right? And I think, I'm sure I know you've seen this, whether it's Sunday school or church, right? You make a statement that is not even all that profound. It's somewhat profound, right? But it's kind of still surface level, and you'll see half the people right over their head, right? And I think that it's kind of what Josh's saying. The importance of something like this comes when you're like, wait, this starts to make sense, right?
Right.
The self-reflection has gotten there. You've matured enough in your faith. It's kind of, it's why Sunday school is basically the first way churches work.
Right.
This is actually the core group.
Right.
We should always expect people to remember. Because this is, Sunday school, you generally have people who are going to be over their faith, generally. So not always can't make it as an overall 100% rule, but it's pretty close.
Right. And you answered it, Josh. You got there. It's whatever's important, people are going to do. If it is a priority, you will. I don't care what it is. Is eating important to all of you in this room? How many of you? When was the last time you went without 3 meals a day? Huh? Yeah, your work schedule, right? Okay. All right. Yeah. But I mean, but we're going to make sure we eat. I mean because that's a priority. I mean, I've proven you don't necessarily have to eat to live. I mean, you can get without. I can get by with a lot less. That's for sure. But it's a priority.
It's the same principle with working out and stuff.
Sure.
And people are like, oh, I don't have time to work out. But you have time to do what?
Fill in the blank. Correct. So it really comes down to what is important to you. And I get it. In some people, it is built into them. It was important to mom and daddy, so it's important to them. TJ, you've always been in Sunday school, right? Was there ever a time when you weren't, right? I mean, and that's my kids are the same way. They've always been in church every time something's going on. So what's going to be more apt to happen, unless they get like angry, more apt to happen is when they start their lives and they start their families, because they've always done that, they're probably going to be more apt to do it. Yeah.
I don't know, it kind of go wrong for you. I think one thing he's going, I think some people don't like to go to Sunday school because it's more important, or you may have to, like he's talking about speak up. Like somebody that don't like to speak up, they a lot easier to just be the choice, so if you don't have to speak up because you're not expected of it. But in Sunday school, they start asking questions, and they want you they kind of expect somebody to people to talk, you know, and it's harder to do it, not sit there and not say nothing, not get noticed. So
Right.
I think for some people like that don't like that, that's one reason they don't really
Coming down to that, more than like the come down to selfishness. Sometimes because don't upset and wants to spend their time and not the best time to bed and have to sleep or less or they'll go to church and less time that'll help them in bed to just stay at home, do whatever they want and stuff.
Oh, then maybe I'm asking the question wrong. Why do those people that only come every once in a while only come every once in a while?
Because they feel guilty.
Maybe eventually they're like,
I need to go.
I haven't been to church in
Right.
so long. I mean, when I talk to some of the guys that I talk to, I really need to go back to church.
Right.
My attitude.
And say, I don't want to name, I'm in this environment and I don't want it because it becomes gossip, and that's the last thing I want to do. But there, I could run a game, and that's what I told them in Sunday school or in prayer room this morning. I said, there's 30 or 40 people that are here once a month. I'm like, why is it not where you go, okay, I need to be a part of that?
It's like when we sometimes I can't go to the work. Sometimes I can go, but I don't go. Basically, being selfish. I want to spend that time just to be able to relax and do what I want. I don't have to go out and do something else.
Sure. And I get it, and that's I guess most of my questioning is rhetorical. I know everything that you guys said. I know, and that's the struggle I know that we face. This is what Peter gets down to.
Some of the people who think so much more might be because somebody invites them. They feel they already inviting them, so they call them. Unfortunately, my older brother, we just come to, I think the only reason sometimes because we invite him when we down here, so eventually he might show up once in a while.
Right. Again, this is where Peter gets to. In leadership, he basically says this, be an example of the flock. And he's talking specifically to pastors, obviously, I get that. He's speaking specifically to elders, I understand that. But I think the example has powerful influence. So people that we see as leadership or whatever, they set an example. But I think it's imperative that we set an example, whoever we are. And just because you're not a deacon or a Sunday school teacher or in any position of leadership or even have a position, you set an example. And I think that's part of the issue, too, is what is the example that people are seeing. I'm a church member, he uses the example of two different members, and he tells a great story of the two guys who were good friends who grow closer together through interaction, and they go to church together, and finally he watches the one guy become disgruntled, and what are the excuses that he gives for not coming to church? Well, the pastor's messages are not inspiring me, or they're not challenging me, or, I see that you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, or like that. So anytime you want to find an excuse, guess what? It's there. Absolutely. And I don't care what it is. You want to end your marriage relationship? There's an excuse there. You can end it. You want to quit your job? There's plenty of junk at your job. You can tap out anytime you want to at your job. There are problems everywhere in life. So that's why I just think that's one of those things that, of all the things that Peter said in this passage, that continues to work on me is this idea of being an example. And Peter's real cool because God inspires him to say, hey, you're going to receive the crown of glory for continuing in this. And I don't know what motivates some of us. Some of us need to be motivated by a reward. Some of us are like Pavlov's dog. As long as I know, we went to the dolphin show a week ago at the aquarium, right? Okay. Y'all, you guys seen that? Or seen something like that? Okay. The reason dogs, cats, pigs, dolphins will do what you want them to do is because you do what? You just give them a fish or a dog treat. That's all it is. It's like, not because they love you, not because, like Sydney is so impressed that Joey will run up and down the fence with her. Like, you know why he does that, right? Why? Because you feed him. Okay. So if you want to get him to sit or stand on his head or the 20 amazing tricks that PJ's dog will do, what do you have to do? You got to train him, okay? But then now, I mean, PJ could say, tell his dog to sit, and he doesn't have to give him a treat because the reaction is there. So, you know, whatever your motivation is, I think a lot of us are like that. We've got to have our treats. So God speaks to Peter there, but I think some of us get to the place where we grow in our faith and we go, okay, this is a priority. This is important. Josh, your quote is impeccable. Is quality. I don't know why it's important. I just know it's important. Thank you. And because I get that. There's some times when we don't understand the importance of it, but we know to do it. And that's what Paul's whole idea of beating our body into subjection. You know, I was asked, I can't remember, it's been a long time ago. I think it was a Wednesday night we were talking about this. But do we do things just because we know we're supposed to do them? And at some level we have to. There's some things that we know that we just have to do. I don't like doing them. I don't enjoy doing them, but I know that I'm supposed to do them. And then something happens over time that as we know that it's an area of obedience, that as I continue to do this, then it does transition into, hey, you know, this is okay. I mean, Josh comes to Sunday school now. Yeah, there's probably some mornings like, dude, we didn't cover any new territory. But it was just good to be together with the group. Or it was, just good to know that I didn't slack off. Or whatever the thing is, there are multiple layers of blessings that come, and one of those I just think is funny is that for some people, knowing that I'm going to get a crown one day, okay, that was works. But then he says this in understanding leadership. There are some of us that are to not be in leadership positions, and that's hard. How many A types have we got here? Like your leadership type, you're out front all the time. I have to be by default. You have to be in management. You're going to be. There's coming a day where you're going to lead crew. I mean, it's coming. It may take a while because you got to pay your dues.
I ain't figured myself out. I can be a leader type if I need to be, but if somebody else wants to take over, I'll just take over. Yeah. Because I always grew up kind of being leader of others, even though there's more being boss. Anyway, but so I've been in groups like in school where we get stuck in groups and somebody else took in charge, so I let them take charge. You know, I'm in some groups, but nobody wanted to take charge, so I took charge. I got tired of nobody taking charge. So I kind of weird about that. Like I work on, I have to take charge. So I'm going to get total tests. I try to take some responsibility. But my time, a lot. Let Johnny or somebody else take charge, and I'm just saying, I want to do it all the time.
And we had a problem here in the early church where that wasn't functioning that way. There were some people that were supposed to be Indians, but they were trying to function as chiefs. Sometimes you got to be submissive, and that's his whole thing here. He says, likewise, you were younger, be subject to the elders. And I talked about this Sunday. I think this is implied in Scripture. He says, clothe yourselves, all of you with humility towards one another, for God opposes the proud, gives grace to the humble. And then he says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that at the proper time he may exalt you. When you see humility in Scripture, I don't know if it's all the time or most of the time, but it's a choice. Like he says, clothe yourself with humility here. And then he says, Peter, in this specific example, says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God. I mean, God's going to humble you, right? But Peter says it's choice. It's decision to be humble. And every time we talk about humility, that is so countercultural. Our culture does not teach humility. What does it teach? Arrogance. Yeah.
I actually wrote a question down yesterday that I remember when you said it. Or not yesterday, obviously last week.
Right, I got you. It popped in your head, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it was a question of just asking myself, without so to speak, does God see? Is it pride in self, or can we actually take pride in things we do? As far as like, I can be proud, I built a chair,
right,
or whatever. But as long as it's not, doesn't turn into arrogance, like because I know obviously when you were going over it, I was like, okay, so this is pride, and he humbles that. But
right.
Is there a sense of taking pride in something that is not going against God?
What say?
Pride is something that is, I think, all things in moderation.
Yeah.
I think that it's, you know, like, if you find this, anybody who in the Bible who think of a leader or person knows there are things that they have to be proud of. When challenged with the opportunity to display that pride in mind.
Right.
But, you know, it's one of those things that Josh, you're saying, I made a chair. Hey, people, this is cool. I made a chair. Right? Check out what I did. You did that.
Right.
Don't then go walking around beating your chest saying, I'm the ultimate chair maker. Right?
If everybody else goes, you're the ultimate chair maker. That's different than you going around going.
And that's where you go, no, I'm not the ultimate chair maker. Right? And then you go back to humility. Right?
Right.
The statement I've always liked is that when you're king, you don't have to tell people. They just know.
Right.
If you were truly king.
Right.
So anybody here king? No, we don't recognize it. If I start walking around saying I'm king,
Right.
I'm obviously not king because you guys don't recognize that. I have to tell you.
Right.
Right. It's the same type of thing. Christ represented that very well. Right. He was Christ through action more. I mean, how many times did he call himself Christ? I'm trying to think now.
I mean,
that's a good example. How many times did he call himself Christ?
Not Christ.
He lets,
who do you say I am?
right. He lets other people identify
Yeah,
him.
and I think that's, you know, in a lot of ways it's very important to keep in mind. I think that's where pride and humility is. It's fine to be proud of something, right? I mean, I'm proud that I'm a Christian. I'm proud that I'm an American. I'm proud that I'm successful. Am I going to let that then determine, you know, how I treat other people, or do I treat other people? Sure, I hope not.
Right. Right.
I'm going to say I even think it's necessary at some point to have a little bit every once in a while, because if you go to the other extreme where you already put yourself down, you can become hopeful. Because I know struggling with depression and I always struggle with self-esteem issues, you know, growing up and everything. And one thing I learned, you know, sometimes, you know, I think I'm being humble when I say I'm not that good and all, but sometimes I get to I go to the extreme and think I'm terrible. You know, I become put myself down so much that I don't. You know what I mean? It hurts myself. I have to remember I can be think I'm okay, but not be real arrogant either. It's kind of like he said, moderation. You got to have moderation, but I think it's even important to have some, because otherwise you get down to where you got none. You go to the other extreme. You either if you get too much, you get too arrogant. If you get too little, you act like God made junk, and God don't make junk. Like I say,
Along with the king quote, Matthew 23:12, whoever exalts himself will be humbled. Whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Let God handle it. And that's the thing. If you're the king, or if you're the Christ, people will identify that. Or if you're the ultimate chair maker.
If you're this is going to hurt. If you're a good Christian, how many times you have to tell people you're a good Christian?
Right.
Oh, snap. How many times is something about you and said, man, you're a good Christian?
Right. Why'd you have to pull that one?
Sorry, this is why people don't come to Sunday.
Right, it gets real in here.
I have to say, I have to put myself back down, because at the same time, so, man, you're like a real Christian. I'm like, yeah, I was
right.
Yeah, they're seeing something.
Finally, right?
You know,
busting my
like,
cans.
For instance, I was dropping a guy off there who I was to do work, and a guy offers me beer, and I'm like,
right.
Other guy said, dude, he didn't drink.
Right. It's like they finally go, dude, no.
Yeah.
Right.
It sounds like
right. And then there's this warning, which I thought was hilarious, because part of this verse was quoted this week. In verse 8, it says, be sober-minded and be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Resist him firm in your faith, knowing the same kind of suffering we are being experienced by your brotherhood. Understand that whatever challenges you're facing, the devil has limited access to you, and it's limited by God. And that's what I love about Screwtape, and I don't know if I'm going to actually pursue that for that next series or not. We may do it on a Wednesday night or something. But that's the whole thing Screwtape tells Wormwood is that's where we want to keep the patient. We either want them to obsess about demonic forces all the time, like constantly, like obsessing about watch out for the devil, or the other end of the spectrum, that we don't even exist and we have no influence. So it's dangerous when they start noticing us. And that's where Peter is here. Is you need to notice the influence of the devil and be aware, sober-minded and watchful. What you got to do?
Sorry, there was a conversation that happened where somebody said, is it okay for Christians to watch horror movies? It was a question.
Right.
And I kind of was like, this is a question you should ask all media. And my response to it was, well, if it caused you to sin, no, right? But somebody made a response that was, if it doesn't cause you to sin, have at it, right? Somebody made a response, though, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's so true. They're like, have you ever noticed that horror films are some of the most spiritually minded movies ever? And I went, wow, there are a lot of, like, even surreal type movies that are horror movies, right? Because name one that isn't.
Right.
And they're like, it's like the only genre you can find where people will recognize the existence of these type of evil forces.
Right.
I was like, man.
Well fought, sir. Well played. Well played.
Fair enough, I suppose.
Right.
And I was going to, my point was like, if with all things, if it doesn't cause you to sin, all things are permissible,
right.
Beneficial. But maybe it's beneficial because now you have an inroad to talk to somebody who likes horror films and isn't a Christian.
Right.
I mean, that's always been my case whenever somebody says, well, you shouldn't be listening to rock music, right? Or you shouldn't be getting tattoos. Maybe you should.
Right. Which will lead me into, we have 7 minutes. I want to get some insight. I'm going to shut the internet down because this is going to stay in this room.